Hey there and welcome to another episode of Arrowhead Junction, Cities Skylines collaboration project between Fresh Popcorn, Flux Trends, and yours truly, Strict Toaster. We are back again in Arrowhead Village. Lately, the last couple episodes, both Flux and me have been focusing heavily on sort of connecting the dots in Arrowhead Village. We've been up until recently, we've been putting together all these like separate projects, and now we have all these like sort of gaps between the different neighborhoods. So we're working heavily on, tying everything together, pretty much connecting all of these different pieces of the puzzle. And in this episode, as I'm sure you can guess from the title and thumbnail, I'm going to be working on some apartment complexes, among a few other things. So stay tuned for those. These will be somewhat similar to what Flux did way back when on episode, I think 4, back in Zamora. He created like a whole like small neighborhood with these types of condos, like the gentrified type of condos, I think I'm gonna be calling them. However, in this case, we're going to go a little bit larger scale. We're going to be working on like 3 different types of architecture. In fact, I kind of went crazy with King Leno's assets for this episode. I think it's like 95% King Leno's assets for the whole video. So he has a broad range of amazing Cities Skylines assets, and I just wanted to give a shot and give it a shot and try a whole bunch of them. And in this case, we're starting on on this corner of the map. We're actually extending beyond the previous city limits. Can't even English today. City limits of Arrowhead Village. And I wanted to try a layout that's somewhat different to what I usually do. I wanted some of these neighborhoods to be, almost like gated neighborhoods where they have their own road system in between. And one of the key components that I really wanted to highlight during this construction is parking lots. Yes, Arrowhead Village, or just Arrowhead Junction in general as a project, is very heavily reliant on parking spots. And in this case, I wanted to use, because usually we've been using this like huge blobbables that have like multiple parking spots, and the issue with those is for the most part they're great, especially if you want to do like massive parking areas like the one we did for the Home Depot in the previous episode I did. But in this case, since things are a little bit more dense, and having massive sprawls of parking lots wouldn't look too realistic, I decided to go with the one ploppable that only has 3 parking spots. The reason why I'm using ploppables and I'm not using decals is because I actually want cars to use this spot. As you can see, I'm laying down these 2-lane roads pretty much throughout, but then in a few different spaces or different spots, I'm using the concrete road, which unfortunately cars used to park. And I know I've been talking about this in my other Cities Skylines series. I know there's a mod that disables parking on streets. The problem is that mod disables parking, citywide. And unfortunately, there's some areas around Arrowhead Junction where we don't have dedicated parking spots, so we definitely want cars to park on the street. The thing is, I haven't really found a solution to that problem. So during this time lapse and even on the cinematics later on, you're gonna see that cars, some of them actually use the dedicated parking spots that I put down, like the ones you see on the screen right now. But they definitely, some other cars actually parked, blocking cars parked right there on those spots, which is kind of funny. But it doesn't look great. Unfortunately, there's really no other way around that. I wish that maybe there was a mod or something, or a feature in the traffic manager that would just disable. Maybe there is. And please let me know in the comments if that is the case. But it will be amazing if there was a way to like turn off parking or street parking for, like, for example, the concrete road, or very specific roads here and there. That would be amazing. If we can actually pull that off, I can absolutely control where cars are parked and where they do not. In fact, You're gonna see later on, probably, if I can't remember if I left that clip in on or no, but there's gonna be once I start the simulation and cars, and people start moving into these apartments, some cars will be using the parking lots and some others won't. However, I was just trying to test things and off camera, and I use the Advanced Vehicle Options mod, AVO, to get rid of all the cars in the city, every single car, driving or parked, even like planes, everything was gone. And then I restarted the simulation and I wanted to see what happened. And that was actually worse. Cars were parking more on the street and not on the actual parking spots that I dedicated, which is kind of strange. Even though I know there's an option in Traffic Manager that's called Realistic Parking, and it's in beta, so I have that option on. But for some reason, cars still choose to not park near, the nearest parking lot. It might have to do with the fact that I'm using Move It to like rotate all of these buildings, and maybe the connection to the closest road is not the one near the parking lot that I just put down. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that might be the reason why some of these cars are not using these beautifully dedicated parking lots that have all these like nice little curves around. And it's kind of a shame that is the case. Hopefully we can figure that out in later episodes. But in the meantime, just wanted to talk about what I'm doing on right now. As I'm sure you can see, I pretty much gated this segment of these buildings and just decided to put some shared amenities. In this case, we have the swimming pool with a couple hot tubs and obviously just a ton of chairs surrounding them. And one thing that I really wanted to sort of spend some time on is adding some lights, so that because obviously the place is completely dark at night. By default, every time we lay down roads, for the most part, we have network skins. Or we are using network skins to turn off, the qualities of the street. In this case, basically turn off every single light that comes by default. And I decided to go for these like super modern light fixtures because I thought they kind of matched the architecture of this types of constructions here, these types of buildings, and I think they actually look pretty nice. So all I'm doing next is just adding a few trees, creating a nice little, fancy entrance with the palm trees. And those roads that I'm putting tiles on are basically the road access to the garages from each one of these buildings, which obviously are non-functional, which means that going back to the topic of parking, we're going to see a lot of cars parked right there on that. I guess I'll call that an alley, but it's like a fancy alley, so I don't know. These yellow lines that I'm adding here, I was trying to see if I could integrate the tiles a little bit better. I later decided to remove them because they're a little bit too, I don't know. I think they clash quite a bit with the rest of the design, so I figured, hey, let's just keep it simple. Only use these brownish tiles all the way up to that edge, and of course using Move It to clone them. One thing I did to sort of transition is what you see me do here is add those bollards. I think these are like cannonballs or something like that. They do look great, and I'm going to be using them in other spaces too throughout this construction. But I think they're like a nice transition when you have such a sharp edge, between like a texture like the tiles and the plain concrete texture that I was having there. But since I take so long to comment on things, I'm already moving on to the next build, which is, it was kind of unfortunate what happened here. So everything that you see here is lost, mainly because when I was done, and this was like a 2-hour process, mind you. I did a few other things like maintenance stuff in other areas that are not really critical to this time lapse. However, what I'm working on here is a construction zone that I was working on for about an hour and a half, I would say. And when I was pretty much done with it, I went ahead to save the game, and the game just got stuck saving, and then it just completely froze. Like the UI was responsive I was able to like click on menus, but that was it. Like even if I clicked on park, like it wouldn't go to the park menu. Like I would see the icons, but I couldn't like plop anything. So that was kind of unfortunate. So I basically recreated the whole thing off camera. You're gonna see the end result at the end of the cinematics. It very much looks like the one I'm building, so it's not going to be completely different, and that's one of the main reasons why I decided to actually leave this footage instead of re-recording what I actually end up doing. And let me actually talk a little bit about what I am doing here. So we've been doing so many construction areas lately, and I feel like it's sort of like the easiest thing in the world. Just throw a few piles of gravel, just some decals all over the place, and just call it a day. And even that will look great. And I'm actually going to do a little bit of that too later on. You'll see it in a moment. But I wanted to do something slightly different, and in this case, I went for those metal beams that I've been using more and more often. I think those are beard monkeys. And I mean, I'm sure you can kind of see it. I'm sort of highlighting the different rooms that are potentially being under construction in this building. And I think they look fantastic. You can just see where the doors would be and the different entrances and exits. And, pairing that with those, lighter decals, concrete decals that are actually not decals. I think it's like a weird model that just lays flush against the ground, and it's a great addition. We used it in the the creation of the Home Depot in the previous episode. I highly encourage you to check it out. The one caveat from that texture is that the way it's made, it's really easy to have a tile, the tiling effect, which is not great. So what I would recommend to you is basically rotate the pieces every once in a while. That way you kind of like, go around that ugly, repetition and the textures, and, things look or end up looking much better that way. Obviously, just adding construction props everywhere. I also didn't want to go like crazy overboard with things. But overall, I'm pretty happy. The end result actually ends up being a little bit simpler than this one. But it actually, I think it looks much better. Again, stay tuned for the cinematics. I think it's the first cinematic clip that I ended up putting, like an overview or aerial view of this construction zone. I'm really excited with how it came out. And I'm also using some of the newer decals from Ronyx. He's doing this, I guess, would you call it a campaign, like one decal a day for a month. So if you haven't checked out his Steam workshop, you should totally go do that. If I remember, I'm gonna include the link in the description so you can see it, but it's kind of amazing. So going back to my original theme, as you can see here, I have this empty block next to the clinic that Flux worked on in the previous episode, and this is where the second apartment complex will be. And in this case, we're going for a different architecture style. Again, all of these are King Leno's assets. I was having some like weird glitch there with the terrain. I mean, everything is like perfectly flat, but for some reason that building, when I rotated it, just didn't want to play along, and it was basically creating holes in the ground, which was a little bit odd. But I managed to work those out, and I also went for like a slightly different style. So instead of having like perfectly parallel buildings, I just went for like a big mouth opening at the end. So they rotate, and it looks like one single building because I'm clipping them with each other, but they actually are separate, obviously, and they look fantastic once I put down all of these curves, and once I go crazy adding trees and things, because like these types of neighborhoods have a ton of irrigation. So I just thought it would be nice to go crazy with that. Maybe a little bit too crazy, because I'm adding the grass there, the grass texture, which I later removed because I thought it was like a bit too much, enough is enough sometimes. But just trying to get some nice decals there in this sort of middle courtyard. And I went for the cobblestone, which actually looks really nice. It fits in very well, and we do have a wide enough gap in the middle that in just a moment you're going to see me add some curves and just some details with some plants, and everything ends up looking pretty realistic in my opinion. Obviously in this wider opening here, trying to not rotate the cobblestone too much so that the textures don't look very weird, unless, you know, obviously where I don't have room for things, I simply have to. But it's best if you have all these textures sort of pointing the same way, and only rotate them when you need to, like, sort of, you know, fix the one little corner, like there, for example. Just having, you know, the bollards be aligned perfectly to the texture. It's better that way. I decided to go for some water fountains, which is something that I don't use usually, especially in Arrowhead Junction, given the fact that water is kind of scarce here. But these types of buildings do have water fountains and water features in general, so even like fake rivers and stuff like that. But I don't know, I just thought it was pretty fitting. And of course I'm going for the huge swimming pool. That's the only one we have right now in our asset collection, which actually I didn't mention this, but we updated our Arrowhead collection. So let me back up a little bit here. So we have the default collection that's linked in the description of this video, but we reached a limit. I think our collection is bugged. I think I mentioned this before, but for those of you who don't know, we cannot add any more assets to the collection. So Flux and I created separate collections that are linked from the main collection, and that's where most of these newer assets that we're using are actually in. So if you wanna, you know, if you see something you like here and you wanna use it in your own cities, make sure to check out these two separate collections. I know it's kind of a pain in the butt to do it that way, but unfortunately, I've been in touch with Steam support. They told me that they're gonna tell their developers to see what's going on, but apparently, collections are limited at 1,000 items now. I am actually getting that error message when I try to add more things to it, so that's kind of unfortunate. Now here, it's the third apartment complex that I'm working on right now. And oh man, this little feature in the middle, that little tiny microscopic roundabout, I just thought it looked amazing. And I'm going to end up adding a ton of like details around it, some lights, some palm trees and things like that. You'll see that in a moment. But I wanted to, sort of go for a slightly different layout here. And I went for like a horseshoe type layout. Actually, it's like 4 horseshoes stuck against each other, I guess I'll say, with parking lots pretty much in the middle. Most of the buildings here are actually away from the main avenue to sort of avoid the noise from the traffic nearby. That was like intentional. It's not something that I'm making up right now to sound way more smarter than I am. Trust me. Seriously, trust me. Again, going crazy with the parking lots. In this case, I realized that maybe we needed a few more parking spaces because these buildings do house a lot more people in. So I ended up adding significantly more parking spots than the ones we did on the previous 2 constructions. However, very few people use them, which is, it's like, really? Really? I did all that work and now there's like 5 cars in fact, there's cars that are actually parked on the adjacent streets. So they actually have to walk a lot farther to get in, which makes no sense to me. I don't understand how this really works, but even empty parking lots look really nice here. I decided to not go incredibly crazy with details overall. I did add quite a few in certain specific areas, but for the most part I decided to keep it plain, almost as if this was just finished being built, and obviously they didn't plant enough trees yet. And I've been using these tile decals that are actually really nice, and if I'm not mistaken, these are vanilla, so you don't need anything any mods or any subscribe to any custom assets. They stack up pretty well. They create like really simple, non-repetition-y textures, and I highly recommend you check them out because they do make things look very, very nice and very, very detailed with not a whole lot of work, which is usually something that I'm, up for. And since I spent so much time like adding all those props around the different areas, I decided, since we have mirrored constructions, why not just use Move It and clone every single thing. And all I had to do then was just adjust the position of the parking lots, because they were obviously not exact. I wish that there was like a more precise way of cloning things, but it's really not the end of the deal. It would have saved me, 10 minutes of work, 15 minutes of work. So the fact that we have Move It already is like good enough. I'm not just I know when to stop asking for things, but it does make things look much nicer. As you can see here, I'm speeding up the footage, and all these stupid cars are parking like right next to the empty parking spot, which is like, oh man, it kills me. It kills me to see that. And since I wasn't sure what I was going to do, or we were going to do later on in future episodes when it comes to the expansion of Arrowhead, I don't think we're going to go that far in. But I decided to sort of transition that 2 or 4 lane avenue into a national road, and then into an under construction national road. I just saw that maintenance truck being just there, decided this was a good idea. So I went for basically a construction area where they're currently paving the road. I use the traffic manager to sort of like, clear the lanes in that stretch between the paved road and the dirt road, and obviously putting a ton of traffic barrels that will prevent cars from driving in the middle of the desert, for just sort of guide them to their right location. Obviously using a ton of surface painter here to like roughen up the edges. That usually makes things much nicer. And then I went for the decals, multiple types of decals, but I went for the mud decals, which would be a little bit odd, I guess, in the middle of the desert since it almost never rains. But they just, even those add like an extra level of detail that it's worth adding it. I guess my advice would be don't go crazy with things like that. But if it does add a little bit of extra texture to things, might as well do it. And over here, I'm working on a very small commercial area. We had this kind of a gap between, I think Flux called it the trailhead, right next to the clinic. So I ended up putting this like sketchy motel and obviously a gas station right next to it, using the curves to sort of separate the different areas. And eventually we're going to add a famous chain restaurant on one of the corners. I think I'm actually going to do that in just a second. There you go. And I decided to do a drive-thru, but we've done a lot of drive-thrus before, but I wanted this one to be special. I didn't want this one to be like your average drive-thru. So I spent quite a bit of time tinkering with these roads. So first of all, I put that in place, and then I'm using this mod that creates the intersections for pedestrians to sort of split the nodes in this road. And then I used Move It to sort of offset the different segments. And as you can see here, you have those like skewed roads that are actually pretty unique to drive-thrus in general, and I thought it looked absolutely perfect. It sort of tied everything together. And what I'm going to do in just a few minutes is going to make things even more, I don't know what the word would be, but like it will bring everything together, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Once I start putting down some darker decals to sort of blend things with the road. And I know there's a mod that does that now, but I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me talk about some of these decorations that I'm doing, which are actually pretty straightforward. Just a few of these rose bushes with some fences to really split the different areas between the motel and the car wash access. Actually, Press in his previous episode did a really cool exit out of the one of these car washes, and that was kind of like the inspiration for this one and the drive-thru as well. So tip of the hat to him for the ideas. And obviously, since these planters were like really green, I just decided to add a lot of bushes, and this is what what I was talking about. I'm just adding some darker decals here to sort of blend in the different roads with the parking spaces, and it looks absolutely incredible. I need to do this more often. What I was saying before is there is now a mod that Ronyx put out that makes doing this even easier. I haven't tried it yet, but I've been told it's like the most amazing thing ever. So I will definitely come back to that. I'm not sure if we actually will be adding that to Arrowhead, because we already have so many mods in place that adding mods, it risks incompatibility issues, especially because we have to pass the save game back and forth. There's already things from the same collections that don't work for Flux that work for me, so it's really crazy. So we might have to keep that at a minimum. However, we do want to keep improving things and make them more aesthetically pleasing. So I don't know, we might add that mod or not, but in any case, you can still achieve the same look and feel by using regular decals like we did at the McDonald's there. So it's not the end of the world. We can still play with the current tools. And right now we're moving into one of the last buildings that we're going to be working on in this episode, which is a Best Western hotel that is just located at the kind of the entrance of the city. I thought it was an appropriate spot. Unfortunately, this hotel comes with a whole bunch of vanilla trees, which do not look great and do not fit our theme. We've been battling this issue ever since we started Arrowhead Junction. The solution that we found was to basically plop trees over these trees and cover them. I know that there's a mod that came out recently that's called Prop It Up, as well as another mod called Vanilla Trees Remover. And conceptually, those are some great mods, but there's a big, kind of a deal breaker for me. I haven't tried them, but I did read in the description that when you zoom out, the LODs for the vanilla trees still show. So that to me it's really the same issue. I can't have those vanilla trees be visible even when I zoom out, especially when I zoom out, because that's where you look at the city the most from, I guess. So in this case, I just decided to go for the same technique that we've been using, and that is just covering those trees with bigger trees that do fit our theme, as you can see there on the screen. It's just a bit of a jungle there, but it does look better than having just the vanilla trees. The true solution will be to actually use Tree Replacer, which I am using in my personal Cities Skylines project, Seenu. Unfortunately, for some reason, it crashes in Arrowhead Junction. It just doesn't work. So, yeah, I really don't know how to fix it. I think Boform has been, who's the author of that mod, has been really, really busy. So clearly he's not updating it, but hopefully in the future he will. And we can get to, replace every single vanilla trees with something that fits our theme much, much better. Now, over here, we used to have a tiny clinic that I've been noticing this more and more often. There's some assets that have, when you see an asset that you put down in your city and it looks like really way too bright, it's very likely that their textures are messed up, or that they're missing the specular, or they have a wrong specular texture file. And I'm getting kind of tired of those. So I'm slowly removing every single thing that doesn't have proper textures. And that clinic, even though the model looked great, the tiny mid-size clinic, I just decided to get rid of it because I just couldn't look at it anymore. And instead I decided to put the big hospital, which is now the biggest structure in the city. And it does have like twice the capacity, so that's pretty good in general, because we were having some health issues. That's actually one of the main reasons why I decided to sort of tackle this, this construction, because it was pretty much built until recently, but I decided to go in and make a few adjustments here and there. I by the way, I created a little custom handicap parking spot that I thought made sense there. And because I wanted to use that decal from Ronyx, obviously, like everything else I did in this episode. And this hospital, the only issue that it has is that it has terrible parking lots on every single corner. They don't make any sense. So I was trying to use some of these cannonball bollards to align things better and sort of create here this ambulance entrance. That's why I put down the keep clear. And I mean, I did what I could. It doesn't look amazing, but it does look much, much better even than the crappy clinic that we used to have before. So I was pretty happy with that. And finally, I'm just adding a few little details in this apartment complex construction. And I was only able to get, the placement of lights on camera, but I promise you, I did put down some bushes and details and things like that throughout that area. So you're going to see those in the cinematics. They're about to start in just a few seconds. And as you can see here, this is the final construction zone that I had to rework from scratch. It looks pretty similar to the one I had before, but slightly different. If you enjoy this episode, please consider giving this video a like. That helps a lot. And also, if you're new to my channel, I want to encourage you to go click the subscribe button if you haven't already. There's also a little bell icon that you can click in order to be notified immediately after one of my videos comes out. Also, in the description, you're going to find a link to the full playlist in case you might have missed an episode. And finally, I want to encourage you to follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Toaster. That's where I post most of my channel updates as well as screenshots and teasers of things to come. But that's it. Just gonna let you enjoy some cinematics. I want to thank you all for watching and hope to see you in the next one.